Cool. So the basics of JavaScript are important because this is going to be the same if you're using Node.js or JavaScript on the browser. There are certain things that only works in the browser, like DOM manipulation. Because Node doesn't have DOM, right? But what is DOM? So DOM is this API that represents and interacts with objects in HTML documents. So when you go and you inspect this and you see like this tree over here, this is a DOM. Okay? So this is a DOM tree and you can navigate. It's not like just a string, you know. The browser creates this object based on what you have written. And of course, objects in the DOM tree may be addressed and manipulated by using methods on the objects. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to manipulate those objects in the DOM tree. And the first thing you think about when you think about DOM manipulation is jQuery. And jQuery is just an amazing project. Like 10 years ago, 8 years ago, working with the browser was just terrible. Like the APIs were different and it was really hard to work with the browser. And then this guy, John Resig, he just made this library. Really simple stuff that would use CSS selectors to fetch elements from the DOM. And everybody was just like, whoa, this is so productive. And a terrible thing happened. jQuery was so productive and people were like just jumping into web and learning jQuery because everybody was saying that jQuery was the best thing in the world, that they were learning a library before learning the actual language. And this is just crazy. And this is the worst thing that you could do with your career. Learning a library, learning some abstraction instead of learning the fundamentals, learning the basics, and learning the language. Same thing with Polymer, you know. We're gonna check it out how Polymer works and all that. But if we don't know web components, which is the basics, the primitive from that, what's the point? Because Polymer can go away. And jQuery is getting less and less popular because the browsers are getting better. They now have query selector. They now have query selector all. Those new APIs were added to the browser only because they saw what people wanted. They were like, oh, people want to make DOM manipulation and fetch elements from the DOM using CSS selectors. So let's put this on the platform. That's what happened. So I'm just gonna ask again, how many of you like know jQuery, have some experience, have played with that in the past? A little bit. So this was going to be an exercise, but I'm gonna go with you for this one. So I'm gonna convert jQuery selectors to plain JavaScript. And the reason why I like doing that is because I teach sometimes before, and I was teaching JavaScript APIs, and everybody didn't know even how to select an element. And that's really important. Knowing how to play with the DOM is really important. So we're gonna see that. Cool, so I'm just gonna open index.html inside of the jQuery folder. And I have this. So for those who know jQuery, do you know what this function means? So this is what you used to use to know that jQuery is loaded, and now you can use the jQuery objects inside of that. So it's an anonymous function that is just going to be executed once jQuery is ready on your page. Because that's important, you know, you want to manipulate the DOM, so you need to know where that jQuery is ready and the DOM is ready. So this was a wrap function for that. So any idea how can we do this on the browser nowadays? We want to know if the DOM is ready for us to play with that. Any idea?
Window to add listener load.
Cool. This is one option. So we could go to the, so let me just show one thing first. If we go to the network tab, there are two different events here. So let's go here. So we see that there are like 25 requests, 21 requests. Here are the data transferred. It finished in 5 seconds. And we have these two different things here. We have the DOM content loaded and the load event. Those are two different events. And they are triggered in two different times. The DOM content loaded was triggered at this point, and load was triggered at this point. Any idea why are those things different? That's because the load event is triggered when the whole page is ready. The images have been loaded, everything was ready. Okay, this is the last event. But if we want to do DOM manipulation, we don't need to wait for all the images to be loaded. Imagine if you have this hero image, like 2000 by 2000. Imagine running our JavaScript after that. So listening to the load event, you can do that, but it's not the best one. So the best one is this one, DOM content loaded. That's the way you should go with plain JavaScript or vanilla JavaScript.
Does the DOM content loaded, because first you got your DOM and then you got your CSOM. You have to wait for it. Is DOM content loaded also take into account the CSOM? Does JavaScript can change your CSS object model?
Sorry, CSOM? What is
CSS object model.
Oh, okay. So this one, it's only triggered when the browser like fetches the whole document and starts parsing your code and then generates the DOM tree. That's the state.
Okay.
And no JavaScript is going to be executed before that happens.
Okay.
So
I think the answer is if you're going after CSS, then you'd have to check that to make sure that's rendered.
yeah, but CSS doesn't change the DOM tree.
Right.
So it's not going to change the DOM tree at all.
It just styles it.
It just styles it. So the DOM tree is going to be the same. CSS can't add new elements or remove elements from the DOM tree. What can happen is if you have some script tags in the middle of everything, and then it's going to take, it's going to load after that. So the way we do this is you just type document.add event listener, and then we listen to that content loaded. And now we can execute our stuff. Okay, so if you want to do this with me, I guess that's a good idea. Just for the next one, so you can like get it. What are you doing?
So what we're doing here is you got a comment 1, comment 2, and we're taking what we see in jQuery and we're saying how do you do it in just plain old JavaScript.
Exactly.
That's cool.